Hi there, I'm Dave O'Neil, broker-owner of Century 21 Spindler & O'Neil, and welcome to Price This House.
And I'm Kimberly O'Neil. Thanks for joining us. We have a lot to get to on this year-end special. We're going to be talking about the 4 communities that we normally talk about: North Reading, Reading, Lynnfield, and Andover. And we're going to review the stats of recent sales for not only the fourth quarter of 2013 versus the fourth quarter of 2012, but we're also going to look at the year in review and look at how 2013 was as a year compared to 2012 on whole. So we've got a lot to get to today. So without further ado, Dave, why don't you start us on the stats for the North Reading market?
We'll start with North Reading single-family homes. In the fourth quarter, which would be October, November, and December, there were 18 units sold in 2013 versus 24 a year ago. The average sales price was $456,000 versus last year's average sales price was $544,000. So a little bit of a decline in units as well as a decline in average sales price following a very, very healthy year. So we'll look at the year totals. In North Reading single-family homes, there was 154 units sold versus in 2012 there were 140 units sold, which is an increase of 10% in units. Average sales price was $500,966 versus a year ago was $460,586, which is an 8.7 increase. So single family homes was up 10% in numbers and up 8.7% or almost 9% in dollar volume, which is a great indication of the market. In the North Reading condos, we have for the fourth quarter of 2013, there were 5 closed versus a year ago there were 8 closed. Average sales price was $216,000 versus a year ago was $254,000. So a few less units and a few less dollars. But when you look at the whole year to date, it's right on par with 2013 and 2012, both closing 34 units. Average sales price was $252,976 versus $244,913, which is, again, the units were unchanged, but the average sales price was up over 3%, which is a healthy index for condos in North Reading. North Reading multifamily, and we've talked about this every single show, that when you get to the real small numbers, the percentages appear skewed. We had 1 closing in 2012 on a multifamily fourth quarter, and this year we didn't have any. But year to date, we had 3 in 2012 and 2 in 2013, which is virtually unchanged. And average sales price, again, when the numbers are small, they appear larger. 2012 was a $395,000 sale price average versus this year $242,500. And again, we're talking land, same thing. Fourth quarter 2012 we had 4. 2013 we didn't have any. Bringing it year to date, we had 2 in 2012 and 6 in 2013, which is a real indication that the market is a lot busier. The average sales price last year was $212,500 versus 2013 was $441,000, which means the total is up 300% in units, and average sale price is up 107%. The reason being there were some large parcels that sold in 2013 that closed as the market has coming back. The builders have gotten back into speculation building and so forth. And so those numbers are certainly reflecting there. Okay.
So some of the lots would have been subdividable lots, not just single families
Exactly.
on each one, which obviously skews the pricing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great, thanks Dave. On to the Reading market. In terms of single family sales, 2012 fourth quarter versus 2013 fourth quarter, it was relatively flat. We had 36 in 2012 versus 35 in 2013. The sale price in 2012 was $456,000. That increased slightly to $477,000. When we look at year to date for single families in in Reading, and when I say year to date, I mean for the whole year of 2012, we sold 209 single family homes in Reading versus in 2013 that jumped up to 237. So that was a 13% increase in single family sales in Reading, and the purchase price went from an average of a little over $444,000 up to $491,000. So that was a 10% increase, which was great. We really had a very strong market in 2013, so that was great to see in Reading. In terms of the condo markets, it was fairly consistent again for the fourth quarter. In 2012, we had 40 units sell at an average price of $326,000 versus in 2013, 38 units sold for an average sale price of $314,000. If you look at the yearly totals for the condo market in Reading, it went up significantly. Reading Woods had something to do with that, and there are a few kind of new developments that went. So we had a lot of new construction and a lot of new condo units in Reading this year. So that definitely kind of skewed the numbers quite a bit. In 2012, we had 81 units sell at an average price of $318,522 versus 2013, we had 120 units sell in Reading. Average sale price of $333,619. So that's a 48% increase in the number of units. The sales price stayed consistent. It was only about a 4% increase. But again, that's because you had a lot of new construction in some of the bigger communities that had a lot of, very similar units, and there wasn't a lot of flexibility in the pricing. So that's the review of the condo market in Reading. In multifamilies, again, we don't see a lot in this area. In 2012, for the fourth quarter, we had 2. They sold at an average of $413,500. We only had 1 in the fourth quarter of 2013, and that sold for $470,000. Again, to echo Dave's comments, when you have numbers that small, it's really hard to really look at the data because they're just very specialized, very specialized sales because there's so few of them. There were more in 2012. If we look at the whole year, there were 10 that averaged a price of $416,000. Versus in 2013, for the whole year, we only sold 4 that averaged $466,000. So, 60% fewer, but it had an 11% higher sale price. So again, we're still talking relatively low numbers when you're only talking having sold 4 multifamilies in the whole year. So just something to bring to everyone's attention. But again, not a lot of analysis to be drawn from that because there are so few to look at. In terms of land, there was no land sold in the fourth quarter of 2012 or 2013. If we look at the yearly numbers for land, there were 4 units sold in 2012 and 3 in 2013. Again, the price jumped up significantly from $220,000 a year ago to $473,000. Couple of reasons here. First of all, Reading just does not have much land to be sold, so it's definitely at a premium, and you'll see that as reflected in the prices. $220 a year ago when we were trying to really get the market kind of back on its feet. This year, $473 was the average for those 3 units. That's up 114% because the builders are starting to get their confidence back, as we discussed, and buying bigger parcels of land and doing some bigger projects. So, great news across the board for the town of Reading.
We did have a couple situations, especially in Reading, where the builders would come in higher than the asking price based on the limited availability of land. So that has really helped push the prices up. One property I can think of right off the top of my head, realistic expectation was somewhere around $300,000. We had it on the market at $350,000, and they got $330,000. Yeah. So it didn't get the full price. So on the paper, it might not look like that, but in the real market, it was 10% over what people expected it to get. So that's the limited availability. Okay, now we'll move into the Lynnfield single-family homes. For the fourth quarter, we had 18 units closed versus a year ago there were 22 units. The average sales price this year was $456,000 versus last year $478,000. Again, that's just the fourth quarter after a very healthy full year. The year-to-date for 2013 was 154 units of single-family in Lynnfield versus a year ago 132 units, which is an increase of 16%. The average sales price in 2013 was $500,000, and average sales price a year ago was $484,000, which is a increase on the average sales price of 3%. Now, if you think back the last few comments we've made, the pricing has gone up about 3 and 4% in each of the communities. So that's probably a pretty good indicator that average homes are going up 3 to 4% in a year, which is a real healthy. People got kind of used to 10, 20, 30% in a year, but that's not healthy and not sustainable. But at a 3% increase over time, that adds up. But for year to year, that becomes very, very healthy. Lynnfield condos, for the fourth quarter, there were 5 this year versus 2 a year ago. The average sales price is $216,000 versus The average sales price a year ago was $377. Again, it's kind of hard for just one quarter versus the year-to-date totals. There were 23 Lynnfield condos sold in 2013 versus 18 a year ago. The average sales price is $412 versus $424 a year ago. That means that we're up 2.7% in units, and we're down 2% in price, which is virtually unchanged. The Lynnfield multifamily each year had 1 unit sold. This year was 578 versus 300,000. Again, when you're talking small numbers, it's very, very difficult to say that there's any real indication of the market versus just the individual properties being sold. And then for Lynnfield land, the fourth quarter, both years had 1 unit sold. Last year was 325 versus 465 this year. Land in Lynnfield for the entire year was 6 units this year versus 3 a year ago. The average sales price is $441 versus $279 a year ago, which means that we doubled the number of units, 100% increase for the year, and the price is up about average price is up about 58%. Again, it's very, very difficult to know whether it's the entire market or just the individual properties that sold. So Lynnfield, again, is enjoying a very, very healthy real estate market as well. Kim?
Great. On to the Andover market. We had a wonderful fourth quarter and a wonderful year in Andover. In terms of single-family sales, in the fourth quarter of 2012, 46 units were sold, and 51 were sold in 2013. So it was, relatively flat, but this, and as well as the average sales price was the same. The average price in 2012 was $655, $518 versus 2013 it was $650, $481. But a very healthy number of single-family units to close within a quarter, in the last quarter of the year especially. If we look at the year-over-year data, we definitely had an increase in the number of units, but the prices kind of stayed pretty steady. So in 2012, we had 307 units sell for an average price of $597, $507. And in 2013, that number of units jumped to 336, so up about 9%. But as I said, the average sale price was $595, $769. So a flat market in terms of that. So it'll be interesting to see how this year kicks off. We're already feeling a lot of activity, so hopefully those number of units will continue to rise as well as the average sale price. In terms of condos for the fourth quarters, respectively, in 2012 we had 18 units sell for an average sale price of $300,653 versus 2013. A few more, 24 units sold for an average sale price of $338,831. So a slight increase in both number of units as well as average sale price for condos. And if we look at the yearly numbers, again, a bit of a jump in the number, but relatively flat pricing. We sold 85 units in 2012 for an average sale price of $317, $368. In 2013, we sold 100 units during the course of the year for an average sale price of $310, $573. So small dip, but again, larger volume. That was a 17% increase year over year. Multifamilies, we've talked about this in prior shows. We don't have a lot of multifamilies in Andover, so no surprises here that there were no units sold in the fourth quarters of either 2012 or 2013. We did have 3 units sell for the year total in 2012 for an average of $355, $833, and in 2013 we actually sold 6 of them throughout the course of the year. It's a little bit lower price point, $273, $333. So doubled the number of units sold, took a little bit of a dive in the sales price, but again, when you're talking 3 units, 6 units, it's really hard to look, at numbers that small in terms of average sales prices being up or down, because you're just looking at a small field to choose from. In terms of land, there were 2 units of land sold in 2012 in the fourth quarter for an average of $495,000, and there wasn't any sold in the end of 2013 in the fourth quarter. We did have 5 units sell for the whole year of 2012 for an average of $577,980 versus this year relatively flat. We sold 6 units during the course of the year for an average sale price of $441,667. So that was a 24% decrease. And again, it's so hard with land because it could be one, small parcel that could hold one home, or it could be a multi, a subdividable parcel of land. So we're really not going to get too concerned about the numbers for the Andover land. But that really wraps up our stats for the 4 overall. I think a
very healthy market.
Healthy year in all of the communities.
All the communities, the general Boston area anyway, is very healthy. And we're going to now go to the portion of the show that we call the Spotlight. What we like to do is pick one property in each of the 4 communities and just kind of talk about what it sold, what it included, and give you an idea of what is actually going on in the marketplace. We're going to start with North Reading. We had brand new construction that closed at Lot 5, also known as 126 Marblehead Street. It's a 9-room, 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath colonial. Sits on an acre of land and has about 3,000 square feet of living area. It was listed for $724,900 and sold actually for $100 more than full price at $725,000. The stats show that it was on longer than it really was on because it was being marketed as a pre-construction opportunity for somebody while the builder was getting the land and getting everything in place to build. But once he actually started building, it sold pretty quickly. I would say within 30 days of actually hitting the market. It's a beautiful home with all hardwood floors on the first floor and up the staircase, and then you have upstairs 4 nice big beautiful bedrooms, had a beautiful master suite, had a walk up to an unfinished 3rd floor, and gas heat, gas fireplace, dream cherry kitchen, granite, and so forth. Again, listed at $724,900 and sold for $725,000. So that's a real good representation of a 3,000 square foot home in North Reading, what you'd be able to get for something in tip-top shape. Kim?
We worked on that deal together and closed it on New Year's Eve. So usually we kind of slow down around the holidays, but this year has been different, and we were working right through the holidays and closing right to the last day of the year. So hopefully that's a great sign of things to come for 2014.
Some years the holidays really start early and people start backing off September, October, November, and you don't have a lot of closings around the holidays. This year kept really right up till middle of December.
Yeah.
And people might have taken a week or 2 off for the snowstorms and so forth, but they're right back out again. So this is a real active market right now.
It really is. It really is. I'm going to highlight the property that actually Dave alluded to earlier, which was 51 Timberneck Drive in Reading. It's a piece of land that we had, and it was about 20,000 square foot lot, so almost a half an acre of land. And this was the scenario, as Dave started to explain, that when you comped out what the land value really was, you came to a certain number. But when you took into account what the supply and demand was, we were able to get a lot more for it, 10% more than we thought it was actually worth, just because there was nothing else out there. And so this piece of property actually sold for $330,000, and a builder bought it and is building a $900,000 house on it. So the land in all of these communities is really at a premium. So if anybody has land, definitely let us know, because we have builders that we're working with, and can help you get probably more than you think that you can get at this point in time in this strong of a market. I'll turn it back to you for Lynnfield.
Now we'll look at Lynnfield. 6 Horseshoe Drive, which is a beautiful $1 million home, was listed for $1,099,000, sold for $1 million. 4,300 square feet of living area, sits on 3/4 of an acre land, had a beautiful open floor plan, had a grand foyer, which opened to the fireplace living room with pillars that opens to an oversized dining room. Had a 1-year-old custom white furniture cabinetry eat-in kitchen with top-of-the-line stainless steel appliances. Had sliders that led out to the patio and the landscaped backyard with a beautiful pool with pebble decking, cabana with granite, full bath, refrigerator, microwave. And it also had a first floor family room with custom cabinetry and access to a wet bar with granite and refrigerator. Had an oversized 2-car garage and also had a master suite, which was just fabulous. Had an oversized master shower, extra shower heads, jacuzzi, custom built-in shelves, walk-in closet. Also had a finished attic with a great room, cathedral ceilings, and so forth. Again, it was only on the market for like 73 days. Was listed at $1,099,000 and sold for $1 million. So that's a real good representation of what $1 million will get you in this marketplace. A lot of money, but a lot of house as well. Kim?
Great, thank you. In Andover, I'd like to highlight 14 William Street. And, you know, we're talking about the builders starting to build again and having land and a lot of new construction. There's lots of beautiful properties. I myself am a sucker for older homes. I live in a home that's almost 300 years old. So I wanted to highlight this home. It was built in 1922. It was on the market for $749,000 and sold for $732,000 only after a couple of weeks. Part of Shawsheen Village, right off of Main Street at Route 28 to William Street. And it had 6 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms with a master bath, 3 fireplaces, just kind of old school charm, which is nice to see too, because we have a lot of new construction going on right now, but that's not the only name of the game. There's a lot of other homes, a lot of unique properties with different charm and some without. And you know, every home has a buyer and every home is marketable. And so this is something that, you know, was almost 3,800 square feet. Great location, very convenient to downtown as well as to 495. Just that kind of charm that you don't see in some of the newer construction projects. But wanted to highlight something that was just a little bit different and show you what something at that $750,000 range will get you in Andover. And that wraps up kind of our spotlight. Next, we're going to move to the Talk of the Town.
Talk of the Town. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We're going to bring in a professional organizer. Eileen Kelly Reed, who comes from Lynnfield, and she's actually a professional organizer, and she's going to talk to us about what it could help you getting your property ready to sell, or maybe even just simplify your life and know where everything is. So stay with us. She'll be right with us.
We'll be right back.
All right, we're back now. We've been joined by Eileen Kelly Reed, who's the owner of Simplify with Eileen from Lynnfield. Since 2009, she's been using her innate organizing talents to help bring balance, order, productivity, and peace to the lives of her residential and business clients. Welcome, Eileen.
Thank you so much, Dave. Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
It's great to see you. Naturally, on a show that deals with Price This House, that deals with real estate, how about if we just jump right into it and ask you what you can do as a professional organizer to help someone get ready to move?
Sure. Well, when you think about moving, ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to maximize the space in your home. The buyers coming in need to envision themselves living in your space. So first and foremost, we declutter and we depersonalize. Just scaling back a lot of things that are on surfaces, getting rid of a lot of the pictures on the wall and a lot of the very personal things, really just to open up the space and have buyers come in and just fall in love. Hopefully get the best price too.
Sure. And what does that process actually entail?
So what we do, we first start by going through a room at a time. One of my favorite sayings is, you know, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And even though it seems overwhelming, if you just really break it down into small pieces and just go through and say, what is in this space right now, let's say the kitchen, what are on the countertops that just aren't really necessary. They don't lend themselves to the daily functioning, and they could be put away, put in a cupboard, put in a pantry, or just out of sight. So again, the room looks bigger and people are excited to walk through.
So this is in preparation for putting your house on the market, not necessarily, there's a whole other part of doing the actual move, but are there certain things that you see that are common mistakes people make, or common things that are easy fixes for people to do in getting prepared to sell?
I think it's usually a pretty big undertaking because people in their own space, they put down roots. They really like to surround themselves with a lot of familiar items, pictures and paintings and tchotchkes and things like that. So I think just if you're just as a first pass, starting to think about a move, what you want to do is just really get rid of the dust collectors, the things on the horizontal surfaces that, again, really don't impact your daily life.
And do you help people, do you put their things in storage, or do you help people, we all watch these do-it-yourself shows and HGTV, I mean, in terms of donating things and giving things away and, packing them up. I always tell people, if you're going to move, start packing now and pack anything you can away.
Sure.
But, I mean, what types of things do you do to help them get organized, and what's that process like?
There are so many great donation sites out there, places that will actually just with a phone call come and pick up at your home, like no heavy lifting. And if you're going to pay to move, why just keep dragging around years and years of your grandmother's Afghans or your great aunt's 12-piece dinner set? If you're not using it, don't take it. Donate it to a worthy cause. Maybe you can free cycle. Maybe you can sell it on Craigslist. There's a lot of great options, but really think about getting down to the essentials. What do you really need in your present life to move forward into your next home?
Now, that's a new word, free cycle. Can you tell me a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, free cycle is it's a community where you can put out on the internet through the free cycle site that you have, let's say, a TV armoire that you want to donate. And people will respond back, and it's free. You don't charge anything, but then you make arrangements, and they pick that up from you, and maybe they have something you've been looking for.
Oh,
so it's a kind of a cool way, just a way to move items around that maybe don't have a real high value to them, but people are looking for.
And what's the typical amount of time that you spend on a home getting it ready for sale?
Boy, that can vary from A to Z. I mean, honestly. I would say I worked on homes where it has literally taken us 2 months of intensive, weekly, just really, really going through to downsize and declutter and depersonalize. Other folks are a little leaner, or they've got maybe a storage unit. Storage in America, what a booming business. It's unbelievable the amount, you just drive around the amount of storage units, huge business. And sometimes that's not a bad option for somebody who maybe is down the road going to be wanting some of their larger items, but right now they don't fit in the house they're moving into.
I've heard you in the past talk about helping people downsize.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of people out there who just recognize that either their life is changing, maybe all the kids are out of the house, maybe they want to turn one of those bedrooms into a different functioning room like an office, but just getting out from under all the stuff, the toys, the extra blankets, the extra computers, things that aren't being used. What we see a lot of with downsizing are seniors who are moving, actually scaling down their space from that home they raised children in that's 5 bedrooms to maybe a 2-bedroom independent living type of a situation. So just getting skinny with your stuff and really hanging on to the things that you love and you use, it's a great way to live.
Okay, so for example, somebody lives in a house and they have a big formal dining room and they do a lot of entertaining. Now they're going into assisted living where they may be a dining room, but it's going to be the assisted living's china.
Right.
How do you help them depersonalize or let go of those memories of all of that?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you really have to go in there and respect what the folks have. Everything they have for a reason. It's just whether that reason makes sense anymore. But again, consignment, some of those beautiful old dining room tables and chairs and buffets, there's a market for it with consigning them through antique stores or donating. Just the whole idea of, maybe there's that set of their, as I mentioned earlier, their great aunt's 12-piece dining room set it's in a box in the basement. Why not donate that so that some family who really needs it can use it? And that's a beautiful thing for them to know that their things are being repurposed, they're being used.
How do you help them decide what to go?
I'm there really as a coach. I'm shoulder to shoulder with them. in the basement going through these things. And usually my first thing, let's say we're going through the collection of the 30 Afghans that the great-grandmother made. So, what's your favorite one? Of all these, which has the most memory? And then maybe we talk about getting that out from the basement and putting it at the foot of the bed, or cutting a little piece and putting it in a beautiful frame so that it's at least one of them is visible. And there's also a saying that when everything is special, nothing is special. Having 30 in a box is not honoring the great-grandmother, but taking one out and actually using it, or as I said, cutting it up and displaying it, that's honoring your great-grandmother.
How do you find the reaction to that?
Pretty positive. I think people know. I mean, they know when they've got too much stuff. They know that these boxes haven't been touched in the basement. So they know, and I think they're just appreciative of the ideas and suggestions of ways to use it in a good way, and feel okay about donating the rest of them either to maybe an animal shelter or to a family whose house just burned down and they need blankets.
Wow. And so do you go through room by room, drawer by drawer, closet by closet? What's your approach?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. If we go into a room, oftentimes what I'll hear from the homeowner is, I'm overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start. So again, we go piece by piece. Okay, let's start with the chest of drawers. Let's go through each drawer, and of your 13 white turtlenecks, which is your favorite? And then, considering that you only wear turtlenecks in the winter, how many do you think you should have, and which are in the best shape, and which are the ones you like? The rest, donate. Mm-hmm. And then we'll go room by room, keep really focused. And once we get like that bureau or that closet just looking fabulous, and they smile when they open the door, then the momentum gets happening, and the rest of the house and the decisions get easier.
And I think there's a lot to be said about just having someone there to do it with you. I had a roommate in college, and she had a wonderful quality. Whenever she went clothes shopping, however many articles she brought home that went into the closet, she took the same number of articles out of the closet and donated it. I was never able to follow up to the lead, to do that. And she would, like, once a year, she'd say, all right, we're going through your closet. Mm-hmm. But to know that your sock drawer needs some attention or your closet needs some attention, you know it and you kind of never get to it. But if you have somebody else, especially somebody that's completely objective, that doesn't care what your high school prom dress looked like or whatever it is in the back of your closet, to be able to say, are you really going to wear this again? Or does, this hasn't fit in however many years. To have somebody to just be there with you to make you do it, I think that probably adds a lot of value to people.
You make such a great point, and a lot of times the people closest to us are the last people who should be involved in this, because there's too much emotion and ego. A grown daughter trying to help her mother, Mom, throw that away, you don't need that anymore, doesn't go over well. So that impartial person to sort of, push a little outside the comfort zone, ask those questions, and just give look at things through a different lens is really helpful. You're right.
Now let's talk the big move.
Yes.
What do you do to help somebody actually plan for a move?
Well, first of all, I have a checklist that I provide everybody with all the steps and on a timeline. Here's what you should do 3 months out. Here's what you should do 2 months out. Here's what you should do a month out, for instance. But one of my favorite things about moving is to really use color and visual cues to help. First, we, of course, scale down, because everything you have today in your home now doesn't necessarily belong in your home that you're moving to. So once we scale things down, we go room by room and we pack up the kitchen. And maybe every box that we pack up for the kitchen is got a big yellow sticker on it, like huge. And when we move into the new home, that room will have a corresponding yellow, big, 8.5 by 11 yellow paper in it. Same with each bedroom, blue for the bedroom, green for the bathroom, etc. That way the movers, it's so fast when they move in. They're not saying, where am I going? Where does this go? They see yellow dot. They know it goes in the yellow room, which is the kitchen. And it's amazing. Alleviates that whole, guessing where did they put the box and trying to find where the paper plates are now that you've moved in, and all of a sudden you find them in the basement. If they're color coded, and I have like a master sheet that goes along with that showing how many boxes should be in the kitchen, how many yellow boxes. But it's a great way to just really make it efficient.
And will you actually work with people unloading those and setting up the new kitchen? And
Oh,
setting up
yes,
the new room?
yes. Mm-hmm.
So you get them organized to start, because I can't tell you how many times we go into a home and somebody has boxes in the basement or the garage from the last time they moved that never got unpacked.
Sure.
So my first thought is, well, if you haven't missed them in 10 years, just don't even look and get rid of them.
Right.
But people don't tend to do that. So do you actually help people say, okay, now you've got this new space, this is how to best use it?
Absolutely. And it's hard to sort of visualize. You've been so used to having your glasses there and your silverware here and what have you. So just looking at the flow of it and optimizing, all the glasses in the place should be near the dishwasher. Where they're coming out of. All the baking and cooking things should be close to the oven. Just really trying to sort of look at it from an objective standpoint and say, here's really how you're going to really maximize the flow and functionality of this space. Same
And
in
again,
the
everything that
bedroom.
you're saying makes such perfect sense. It's common sense, but I think that there's a huge advantage to have someone hold your hand and actually make you do it,
And sometimes you're so deep into it as the homeowner, it's all your stuff. You're so used to looking at it one way that sometimes I was working with a gentleman the other day in his home office, and the way he set it up, it was very awkward, and it didn't flow well. We literally just moved the desk here and moved that over there, and he was just like, wow, I never would have thought to do it that way, but it makes a lot of sense. Just sometimes looking at it through a different lens just can make a world of difference.
Now, speaking of home offices, I tend to see when we go to price someone's house that that's the messiest room. There are stacks of papers, old tax returns, what have you.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through how, what you save, what you need to save? Do you shred documents? Are certain things able to just go in the trash, or how you organize something with just so much paper?
Yeah, paper, oof, it's daunting. But I have a sheet of I think that came from like a CPA type of a thing of, the amount of time that you should keep various documents. And it's surprisingly low for just your last year bills or what have you. Taxes, absolutely. They don't need to be right there in the office. What should be in the office are things that you're sort of touching every day or every month. Anything else that you still need, might have to access once in a while, put in a great Rubbermaid bin, not a cardboard box, and put it down in this basement or up in the attic, somewhere where it's close enough to be accessed, but you don't need to be literally tripping over it or have it in your everyday space. A lot of people in home offices, you might have noticed this too, they have those really nice, almost like a table, very pretty, but no functionality, no drawers. And that just creates a horizontal nightmare.
They have the pretty table with stacks of paper on it, which makes it not very pretty.
Right. So usually what I'll encourage people to get, a good proper filing cabinet, and they make them, that are very attractive in wood and what have you. But you need to have those types of drawers to let the surface space function as a workspace instead of just a pile holder. Yeah.
Well, as you know, one of my winter projects this year was getting my own personal office.
Yes, I
organized.
do.
And Eileen and I spent quite a bit of time working on my own office. So tell us about what you can do for commercial customers.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say, tell us how bad his office really was.
Client confidentiality. No, it was a great experience, and yeah, I think we definitely accomplished quite a bit. So I come from a corporate world, 20 some odd years in the corporate world, so I really understand how that all flows. The challenge with corporate clients are that there's so many different people using a common space that you really have to come up with solutions and strategies and systems that work for everybody. They have to be simple, they have to be intuitive. Again, with businesses, there's oftentimes a ton of paper. So really just building file systems that, again, keeping the necessary items that are current and active accessible, and having the rest of the things that are more archival or historical in another space that doesn't interfere with what's going on today.
And we always have Cintas that can take things away.
Yes, Cintas, the shredding company, it's great. They drop off a bin, a huge bin on wheels, and you just dump in the shredding, because we really need to be very, very, very sensitive with our business and our residential clients about personal information. Identity theft is just rampant, so we're really judicious about shredding.
Do you get involved with electronic documents in terms of things that you know that you might need that you can save electronically and then shred? And I'm looking at that from both like corporate documents as well as personal, like everything, everyone has their pictures and things online. Like do people, do you help people get that kind of stuff organized in an electronic capacity as well?
I actually haven't had too much experience doing that.
Okay.
But great opportunities there. You really need to lock down privacy in a lot of those, online and electronic documents. But I haven't had any particular experiences.
But you could help once they have their documents online, then help them get rid of them.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's great. I guess my last question would actually be, how about commercial clients as far as a business, going in and helping someone with a business? Would you, because you had so many years in office management, would you be the person to come in and tell people maybe starting a home business or starting up a business, how to actually set it up?
Yes. I did do that with actually a former colleague of mine who went off and started a business where she and her husband bought a number of rental properties. So we went in and just devised systems that, again, were going to be intuitive for them. There are so many different ways to approach filing and things, but you really have to understand the person you're working with and make sure that the system I'm proposing is really tailored for them. Some people really need to see things visually, so I encourage vertical type folders instead of the horizontal. Some people respond, they think more in terms of numbers or colors, or maybe they're more alphabetically oriented. So we created basically a drawer. They had 4 properties. We bought a big 4 tall nice file cabinet, and each drawer was for one property, and we had all the contracts in one area, the financials, the bills, the vendors, the actual residents, etc. So it was just a great system, and that works really well for them.
So the organizing can really go to any portion of your life.
Yeah, it can be beginning a bit, of starting a business or starting a room or starting a kitchen, in the midst of it, or when you're leaving. Organizing can really add value in all 3 of those types of scenarios.
That's great.
Great, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, it was
Wonderful
a real
tips.
pleasure.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you.
Definite some value added that we could see with I know a lot of my customers and myself personally as well. So
I've given Eileen's name several times, and she always comes through like a champ.
thank you very much for being here.
Appreciate it.
Welcome back. Thank you to Eileen. Such wonderful tips, and gosh, I certainly could use to get my life organized, my office space organized, so definitely a great resource to have. We're going to move on to the next segment, which is Beantown and Beyond. The Boston Marketplace, it has been all year. We've started, this is our 5th show. We've been doing it for a year now and talked about the previous 4 quarters, but we've been talking right through this. The Boston market has been very, very hot, and it has not slowed down. The holidays, the snow, nothing has really kind of put a halt to it. So definitely a very exciting market to be part of. And I wanted to highlight a single-family home. You don't see a lot of single-family homes in the city, especially in South Boston. But I wanted to highlight 84 Old Harbor Street, which was a beautiful single-family home, 2,500 square feet, which did include a finished basement of about 500 square feet. But it had 6 rooms, 3 bedrooms, 1 full bath plus 2 half baths, one in the living area space and then one in the finished basement space. And it had a fireplace. beautiful hardwood floors throughout. It was, excuse me, Old Harbor Street is between Telegraph Street and East 8th Street, so down near the water. Had a garage parking spot, which is at a huge premium in Southie, especially in the winter with the snow and what have you. But that was something that was listed for $799 and ended up selling for $815,000. So we're seeing still lots of things selling at over asking price, as long as they're desirable properties and they warrant it. And people have fortunately not been too greedy. They're really working with us on what the actual comps are and working with, okay, how are we going to sell this quickly and make them as much money as we can, but we don't want to overprice it and then have the market, not respond and have you be sitting on the property. So this was a perfect example of them pricing it well, getting multiple offers, and unfortunately the buyers for this really lucked out. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous property, and I think they'll be happy there for a long period of time. Again, it was only on the market for 7 days, and that included the inspection period and things like that. It moved very, very quickly. So just wanted to highlight the beautiful property at 84 Old Harbor Street.
That's great. Just to pick up on what Kim was talking about, multiple offers. If you put it on too high, you will have your property just sit on the market. If you put it on where you expect it to sell in the current time period that we're in with a limited inventory, you may get multiple offers. And people, if they want something, they'll pay a little bit extra for it. You still have to worry about the bank appraisals. If the buyer's going to get a mortgage, the banks aren't going to appraise it for much more than value. So you need to make sure that you're still within a relatively close number to where it's going to appraise out. Somebody that comes in, and we had one situation last year, somebody came in and offered something like $60,000 over asking, and then didn't appraise out. So the sellers had to accept a lower number. So if you're going to sell a property, unless you can find somebody with all cash, you're going to have to worry about that bank appraisal. So while it's great to hear things are selling at full price or above, you really need to make sure that you have the comparables to support that. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that, because without the comparable sales, the banks just won't. Banks have tightened up a lot. They just won't approve the property.
And what we've talked about in programs past is that, it doesn't really matter what you think your property's worth or what your neighbor thinks your property's worth. It really matters what the actual, true, recent comparable sales are. So if that's something that you need help with, you can always reach out to us at price.thishouse@century21.com, and we'll be happy to help you with that computation.
We're in all the houses all the time, so we can very easily, off the top of our heads, sit down with you and explain to you why one house can bring a little bit more than another house, and we can certainly explain that to you. Now we're at the point in the show, something to think about. We thought we'd do something a little different today and talk about some condos. We have a 2-bedroom condo at the Colonial Drive condo complex right on the Andover North Reading line, 850 square feet, 4-room, 2-bedroom, 1 bath at $159,900. And at the same complex, Colonial Drive in Andover, we have a 719 square foot, 1-bedroom, 4-room, 1-bedroom, 1 bath, listed at $132,900. So they're great opportunities, whether it be someone just starting out, looking for their own place, maybe it's somebody that's downsizing, has a larger home to sell, maybe looking for something around here in a condo, maybe go to Florida for the rest of the time. 2 great properties in Colonial Drive condos in Andover for $132,900 and $159,900. So if you have any interest in seeing those, feel free to give us a call or email us, and we'll be glad to help you out with that.
They're great investment opportunities as well. They're located right on the corner of 125 and 28, right in Andover, so very convenient opportunities.
And they're very well run. They have a great reputation in the real estate community. So that brings us to the end of the show. Again, we thank you for your time. We thank you for all the positive feedback that we get from everybody around town when we talk to them. And if you have any great ideas or have any great properties that you think you'd like to see shown on the show, feel free to get in touch with us, price.thishouse@century21.com, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.